my role, as I mentioned, was initially started as a business advisor. So I worked with UCL and still do work with UCL in terms of supporting their business advisory board meetings, but also their projects that they've got live at the moment. But more recently, over the last 2 years, my role's expanded to be relationship manager for Enactus in the UK. So a lot of the work I'm doing with Enactus is much more strategic now. So working with Abs and Rosie and Jeff, obviously, with being on the board of directors, to look at what can we do strategically as a partnership to really leverage every possibility on both sides, and how can we get the most out of the relationship, but how can Enactus get the most out of us as well.
So for example, if you're attached to one university, so you're a business advisor for a university, and you'll go, the CRE there, the president will be there, and then all the projects, well not all the projects, but some of the team leaders will be there as well. And your role is to actually advise them, because you have to remember that you might have first year, second year, third year students there, some projects might be really new, and then it's all about contacts and knowledge. So there might be a project that, if it's to do with, for example, something similar to enterprise, or where enterprise could help out, where my knowledge as a recruiter could help out, then that's where I can exchange knowledge to kind of help the projects succeed, because that's what they need. It's not just about funding with the project, sometimes it's just about knowledge.
It's kind of a multiple layer of involvement. I'm, before everything else, a business advisors. But also kind of lead the development internally for Amazon of a program. So I spend a lot of time talking to directors and vice presidents within our organization to make sure they understand what the program is and why it's a great program, and what we can give to the Enactus as a company, but also what we can get back in terms of the training for our staff, the involvement on social projects, which is very different to what we do on a day-to-day basis.
I would actually say some of the internal work that I do at AIG. A lot of my engagement is externally, but internally, because we're such a huge organisation, trying to get the brand of Enactus out there and get people really engaged in what Enactus is all about can be quite difficult. So really tapping into new talent that we've got coming into the organisation and keeping the buzz around Enactus, so much so that we get people volunteering and becoming business advisors and a part of what they do.
Going to the meetings, that's I know it sounds really simple, but there's no point in being a business advisor and being on a list of delegates to say, oh okay, you're a business advisor for the University of Kent. If you don't go and engage with the students, then there isn't any transfer of that knowledge, there's no exchange of ideas, and you know what, it's going to be after work basically, and that's the thing you have to commit yourself to, but it pays off in the end. If you get to see the project that you're part of, or your team win an award or do really well, whatever it might be, that's because of you. So like anything, it takes commitment, so I think that's the most important thing.
So at the moment, the most important part of my role is probably that championing of a program. I think it's very important for corporate sponsors to reach all corners of their business, and I think the bigger the company, the more difficult it is to actually reach everybody and every team within one company. And so a lot of those teams will have different objectives in terms of student engagement and social projects. So it's very important to talk to them as soon as possible to make sure that you can have one approach across the entire company, as opposed to have different teams doing different things on campus.
Be prepared to be challenged. I think I would say I have so many business advisors who start the process thinking that they're going to be teaching all of these students what to do, and they are going to be the wise coaches in the whole process, and so many of them, after a few months of working with the student teams, quite quickly realise that they're learning as much as they are in terms of giving. So I think business advisors need to come in with quite an open mind and be willing to learn and adapt to whatever the projects may take them.
Don't be scared to ask questions. So, I mean, even now, if you ask me to explain what Enactus is, I could, but it would take maybe 10 minutes and lots of different sentences. So don't be afraid to ask questions, whether it be to the CRE, the president. Never feel silly, because even most of Enactus is still learning about what the possibilities are, and teams learn off each other as well, because there are teams that are larger, more successful, there are new teams, so never be afraid to ask a question or just to kind of throw yourself into it.
So I would say for new business advisors, be very open, and sometimes as a new business advisor, you don't really know much about the Enactus program, but you can still contribute quite a lot. So it's just about talking to the students as much as possible, and go on campus if you can, go to career fairs, go to the regional competitions if you have one, locally, the national competitions even better, so that you can really understand what the program is about and the result it brings.